You're listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is MaryRandHess, author of The One and Only Wolfgang, From Pet Rescue to One Big Happy Family. Mary is a poet, a mixed media artist, screenwriter, and New York Times best-selling author of books including Solo and Swing. She lives in Southern California with her family and 2 quirky dogs. Welcome, Mary. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt and Leah. I appreciate it.
Well, Mary, first off, congratulations on being a New York Times bestselling author.
Thank you. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I bet.
It's been a blessing. Yes.
So today we're going to talk about your latest project with Steve Gregg, and I happen to follow him on Instagram, and Steve is a gentleman who adopts senior animals and provides a wonderful home with them. Now, how did you and Steve get connected to work on this project?
Well, much like you and his legions of fans, I discovered Steve on Instagram. And so I was immediately taken by this big, quirky family of senior rescue pets. I mean, I like instant laughter and joy.
Yes.
So, I mean, I check it all the time on his page, even though we're good friends and we work together. I'm constantly checking in because I want to see what's going on with Bikini the pig, Etzel, his new turkey, Tofu. I mean, see, we're laughing, right?
Right.
And the names are great.
Aren't they great? He's so creative with the names. He's such a creative person. So, you know, I can't talk about Steve and his pets without smiling. They really genuinely bring so much happiness to, I think, all of us who know him and his pets. But when I stumbled upon his Instagram page, it just occurred to me that it would make the greatest picture book. I'm like, you know what? I thought about it for a little while. I'm like, I'm just going to be daring and reach out and ask him if he'd ever consider writing a picture book about his gang with me.
Wow.
I sent an email and I didn't know if I'd hear anything back. But I heard something back pretty quickly. And, you know, he had been approached, I think, probably many times about doing a book, but he had Googled me, and then we talked on the phone and we hit it off. And I'm a big animal lover. I have, you know, my own pets. And I've always loved animals. And it just worked out. And then Zonder Kids, aka Harper Collins, they're huge fans of Wolfgang 2242 as well. And so they wanted to do the book, and it all just worked out.
Wow. And all because you sent an email. Isn't that wonderful?
And that's the thing I want to encourage authors. Don't be afraid to reach out to other creatives of all types. You know, I know Steve's an accountant, but really he's very, he's creative in how he presents his furry family to us, you know, so you can't be afraid to reach out.
Well, that's what we are trying to promote to our audience, just like you said. Try it. You have nothing to lose. You already have a no if you don't try, but you don't know what will happen. So get out there, try and see what happens and what opportunities it will bring you.
Amen to that. 100%.
So tell me about the pictures that you used for the book.
So the pictures, Steve actually takes a lot of the photos for his book. And he also has a friend named Melissa Merkel, and Melissa assisted him with taking the photos. She took a lot of the photos for the book. The stories behind the photos are quite entertaining. Getting all the pets and the pig to line up.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Are they photoshopped, or do they really sit there for all of them to be lined up like that?
They really sit there for Steve. But,
wow.
You know, I think it takes it's not easy. Let's put it that way,
Okay.
particularly with Bikini the pig. But they are senior pets. Right. Bikini's feisty. She has her own, you know, thoughts about what she's going to do on any particular day, from what I gather. So, but all the dogs, they're seniors, and so they're a little calmer. So I think it's, you know, easier for him to get them to sit still, but to keep them all awake and alert and looking and not wanting to go snack or whatever, you know, it's probably, I think it's been a challenge, but I mean, he and Melissa did such a fabulous job. And then of course, Nadia Sorrell, she did a beautiful job with the illustrations.
Yes. So how did you collaborate? Did you work through email or did you visit each other, or how did the book come about?
Well, Steve and I have met each other in person,
Okay.
but we did basically all the writing over the phone, through email, texting. So all the kind of conveniences of modern day technology. So thank goodness for that. But we were able to keep up with each other, and I took a lot of time getting to know his pets, asking him questions, and then he would share anecdotes and fun stories, and I'd become familiar with their personalities. So it was a lot of back and forth and taking time to write what we consider this love letter to families of all shapes and sizes and all kinds, and a love letter to treasuring and loving the old. So that was kind of our message we wanted in the book. And we just kind of knowing that what we wanted to write really helped, but it took a little time, and then crafting the prose and then also the dialogue, which we had, speech bubbles in the book.
Sure. So about how long did it take from, like, let's say from the time that you find, the first email until you were, let's say, finished with the whole book?
We had been going back and forth with the publisher, and it took some time to iron out what direction we wanted to go in. But once we had kind of finished negotiating verbally, we started the process, I think, in July of last year. It was a quick turnaround. But we had been talking for a good year before that about what we wanted to do. But really getting into the meat of the story and in the heart of the project, it took, I think we had maybe 4 months to really get it all squared away.
But a year getting to know each other and coming to an agreement, and wow, that sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I think people sometimes think, a picture book will be a quick turnaround, but that's not necessarily the truth at all. In fact, I find that picture books can take a lot of work, because you could have 25 pages of material and you want to narrow it down to, only so many words, 500 or 700 words or whatever you have in mind, whatever goal is in mind.
Right.
Picture books tend to lean towards, shorter word count. Actually, it seems like it would be easier, but you really have to cut back. And what you tend to do, I think a lot of authors do, is they write everything down that they can, and then they chisel away.
When you were working with Zonder Kids, did they wanted to change the direction of the book?
Well, I think we had to kind of figure out what was going to be best suited for the characters, which are real characters. And, we wanted to make sure we're very passionate about getting out the message of loving the old is one of the greatest things you can do in this world. And how, families come in different shapes and sizes. Like I said before, it's just something we really wanted to get across. And I know that they were a little bit, I think they were wanting more of a traditional story at first. We wanted to kind of write more of a love letter approach to this, and kind of show a day in the life and the world that they live in. So it took a little convincing, but they ended up loving the direction we were going in. Oftentimes there'll be 2 or 3 different visions, and you can all come together and work it out. I know they had some brilliant ideas for this book, and that helped a lot too. So it's a big, it's collaboration all around.
I think that's an important message, because I'm just thinking about my own childhood. My one friend had ducks and dogs, and we just had the traditional dogs and cats, and some people didn't have any animals. And sometimes when you're talking as a kid, you do realize, is my family a little different, like my friend with the ducks, but that's okay. It is wonderful that everyone does things differently. So I think that is wonderful how you're saying, a family's different, and that's wonderful. I like that message that you're sending out, the love letter message. I think that's really important for kids to say, it doesn't make a difference if my family's a little different. We're a family. This is us. So that's great.
Thank you. That's exactly what we were hoping for. And what I love so much is the feedback we're getting and some of the reviews. People are buying this book as much for their pets as they are for their children and their grown children. So I think the message reaches out and encourages people to just cozy up and be with your family.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your writing process.
to me, writing is kind of a sacred process. It can almost be ritualistic. I think some authors, have their favorite room to write in and want to start in the morning. I'm personally a night owl. So I think it's important for, writers to find the magical time of day that you feel most inspired and creative, and choose that time every day with, obviously you have to work around your family schedule or whatever, right? It doesn't always work.
Your job.
Yeah, your job, right? So whatever you can do to fit it into your daily routine and make that a time that's just for you. And for me, what I do is I tend to write it at night when things have quieted down. I find my quiet space and I plug in my headphones and I listen to music.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do. Lots of it.
Okay.
And it kind of just helps me drift into the world I need to be inside of. And it just allows me to tap into those emotions and the imagery I want to use. Music is definitely an integral part of my creating. And sometimes, there's candles. Sometimes there's a good snack like chocolate and tea. But, just kind of whatever I need to get me in that place where I'm in the world I need to be in. I think every writer needs to just find that special time every day.
Great idea. Well, Mary, before we began recording, Leah and I were looking at your latest book, The One and Only Wolfgang, on Amazon, and we saw there were more than 40 reviews, which is fantastic.
Oh, wow.
I mean, every author would be thrilled with, almost every author would be thrilled with 40 reviews.
I think it really helps that Steve has a loyal fan base and a lot of people out there who want to support and follow the story. I also think it's social media, getting out and promoting the book. Steve and I have been, we promote the book on social media and we get out and talk about the process and the events that we're having. And I think that helps too, because it alerts people to the fact that your book is available, and then they will hopefully go to their either favorite indie bookstore or Amazon or Barnes & Noble and buy the book and hopefully leave a review. Mm-hmm. I have author friends who will say, they'll post on Facebook or something, if you liked my book and you have it, don't hesitate to leave a review. It really helps authors. I definitely, when I've read a book by an author, I try to leave reviews as well because I know it's helpful.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
That's a good message to send also. Thank you for reminding us about that, because that is true. If you like a book, write a review. And if you especially like the book because you want to help the author. So thank you for reminding us of that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge help for all of us. I feel like the children's writing community, we are advocates of each other. We want to see each other succeed. And it's a very loving community overall.
Isn't that nice? That's great.
Absolutely.
So we normally talk to authors about what they're doing to promote the book, and you touched on that a little bit, but are you doing anything special with promoting this latest book?
Steve and I have some book signings come up. I think book signing events where you speak about the book gets people out and curious about what you're doing. In the past, we've done various events where speaking engagements, I've taught workshops. I think it helps to promote the book when you're out teaching and
Sure.
sharing your craft ideas. So I've taught workshops with the SCBWI. That's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, as you all know. And that's a lot of fun because you meet a lot of writers and they get to know your work. That and going to school visits. School visits help a lot too to get the word out about your book. And
oh, I'm sure all the kids are very excited and like, oh, Mom, you have to buy this book. Or I'm sure even the schools sometimes have you pre-purchase a book.
Yes, sometimes that happens as well, or they have an opportunity. Usually there's pre-orders for schools that when they do that, they can guarantee that, the kids will get their books ahead of time and we'll have them signed and everything. But it helps because then the kids get excited about the books and the
Mm-hmm.
teachers get excited and the librarians. So that's another avenue to promoting the book.
Well, Mary, can you tell us a little bit about how you started to become a writer and how solo and swing came about?
Absolutely. I've always been kind of the creative type. And when I was growing up, I was always kind of creating a world of make-believe with my own handmade puppets and kind of my own plays. And I just knew I loved creating stories, but I also loved creating music. I compose on the piano. And at first, I wanted to be a rock star.
Oh.
But it became very evident that I was not going to become a rock star. So I decided that, you know what, I love writing just as much. So I'm gonna do that. And I ended up majoring in English writing with a concentration in creative writing. And I had these fantastic professors at George Mason University. Carolyn Forche, who's a poet. She was a great professor to have. She encouraged us to keep a raw writing journal. And she said, don't judge yourself in that journal. Just write. Every day, set a time to just write whatever comes to your mind. And you're not allowed to edit. So that was extraordinary advice for me. I was able to take that and literally really write without self-editing, because that's how you find those golden nuggets, is when you allow yourself to write without pressuring yourself to be perfect.
Great. So you're not, not overthinking anything. You're just writing.
Right. You're just writing, and it gets you into the practice of writing. And that was just a beautiful thing I learned from her. And then, of course, Alan Schuss, a novelist, I had great classes with him. And one thing he kept pushing was read. You can never read enough. Mm-hmm. And reading helps you to become a better writer. And surely that is, I think, the truth.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I just knew from those classes that, yes, I was on this path, and I didn't care how long it would take. I could take my time. It's a long growing art form. You have to take your time with it and not beat yourself up over it if you're not an overnight success. Most writers are not an overnight success.
Sure, yeah.
From there, I just, I have my children, and then I kept plodding along and writing for magazines and newspapers and working on screenplays and novels. And eventually, I actually had a small press called Story Pie Press for a little while, where I was publishing other authors. And I found out that, after a few years, I missed writing. I put so much into the publishing company, and we did so much with charitable organizations and promoting that I missed writing so much that I ended up switching back to writing full time. And when I did that, I joined a writing group. And I cannot stress enough the importance of having good writing friends around you.
Great.
Well, how does the writing group work?
So the writing group, I ended up meeting Kwame Alexander in the writing group. And it just, you get together and you write together and you share each other's works and you critique, you give feedback. And I know that in my writing group back in Virginia, I live in California now, Kwame and I hit it off, and we have very similar writing styles and sensibilities, and it just made sense for us to do something together. And I asked him if he wanted to write a novel together, and I wasn't sure if he was going to say yes or not, and he said, let me think about it. I kind of like that idea. Let me see, I'll get back to you. And I think a week or two went by, and he's like, absolutely, let's write this novel together about rock and roll in Ghana. So it just, it was fantastic. And we had just an amazing time working together, and we continue to work together. We've done 2 novels, a picture book, and we're working on a couple other projects that hopefully I'll be able to share more about soon.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what about writing a novel with someone, though? How, obviously you had a good relationship. Like, do you say, I'll do this, you do that, or is it just total collaboration?
I guess it's total magic and mayhem. That's what I always say.
Uh-huh.
Sounds like a total challenge.
Yeah.
It was, we had our organized chaos about it. We would take turns going back and forth. Maybe he would write 10 pages, I would write 10 pages. We'd send our work to each other and revise each other's work to streamline the voice. We'd take a stab at different parts of the book and kind of, hone in on areas that needed to be worked on. And then we'd go back and forth and share. And it just worked for us. And we would write together in the same, his writing studio sometimes, or he travels the world quite often. We would, email each other, or again, text.
Okay.
So, and jump on the phone quite a bit too.
That's I think, great.
Right. It works. And I think, collaboration is one way to break in to the industry, is just to collaborate with other authors. It's a great way to break in. And there's so much, just creative energy that you have when you work with others.
Well, it seems like you're a great model for that, working together.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I love it.
It does seem like many people we speak to, the writing groups seem to be invaluable to them. just the encouragement that people receive and the close-knit friendship that people seem to form. So
I think the writing groups are extremely important for the moral support. Every writer I know, no matter how big they get, each writer has had their slew of rejections. I know very few writers who hit a home run with their first submission out the door. Mm-hmm. Most of us have received a ton of rejections, and so we know what that's like. And I think it's good to get together with other authors. They can read your work, give you valuable suggestions, and spark a kind of a new idea in your mind, a new avenue for your writing. But also they're there to encourage you when you feel, it kind of stinks. Here I've gotten another rejection. I'm not sure. Do I want to keep going? Well, that's when your writing friends come in and say, yes, you want to keep going. This is
great.
This no just is only one more no. You
Right.
never know when that yes is going to come. Eventually that yes will be there if you persevere.
Great.
Excellent advice. Scribophile is the proud sponsor of the Author Inside You podcast.
Looking for ways to improve your writing? Scribophile is the place for you. They're famous for giving out detailed and helpful critiques. The critiques are so much more than giving you a pat on the back. You'll actually receive details on how to improve your writing. As part of the Scribophile community, you'll also be writing critiques for others. This is a great way for you to learn how to improve your own writing. Their members tell them again and again that learning how to write great critiques dramatically improve their own writing.
At Scribophile, you can learn from the vast collection of free writing resources. Besides the insightful critiques you'll get in the writing workshop, Scribophile has a huge amount of free resources in the professional Writing Blog and Writing Academy. Their writing forums are busy with thousands of writers from all over the world talking shop.
Scribophile is also a great place to make lifelong friends in the busy community of writers. Although writing is a solitary act, that doesn't mean you have to be lonely. Lucky for you, there are thousands of writers on Scribophile every day. And they're really a friendly bunch.
You've never seen a writing group like this one at scribophile.com.
So going back to the one and only Wolfgang, I have to ask you, so you met Steve, but did you meet the pets?
I have met Edsel. I have yet to meet all of them.
Okay.
And there's a plan for me to do that here soon. He lives in Colorado, and of course I live here in California, but he's been here. He's coming in this week. And so I get to hang out with he and Edsel again. So I love hanging out with Steve. Sure. He's so much fun. And Edsel is a great dog. He's very calm, and he loves crowds. And, some of his dogs are great with a lot of people. And I think others are a little more shy, probably. And so I haven't met them all yet, but okay. I can't wait to do that.
It sounds like you need to take a road trip to Colorado with your two quirky dogs in your family.
I think so. But I think with my dogs is they don't have the best manners. They tend to one has a lot to say. She barks at people, and the other, he's very musical. He sings to the piano. So, they're both,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, I would love actually if my dogs met his pets. Yeah. It would be really cool.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
Certainly, my website, MaryRandHess.com. I believe my email is on there, and there's a contact page, and then or MaryRandHess@yahoo.com is my email. Certainly, someone can send questions if they want. In addition, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and on Instagram and Twitter, I'm at MaryRandHess.
Excellent, great. So I'll put links to those in the show notes, and I'll also put a link to Steve's Instagram account.
Oh, perfect.
Well, Mary, thank you very much for joining us today on The Author Inside You. It was great having you, and you gave us a lot of great information and inspiration.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
We've done over 100 episodes of the Author Inside You podcast, and we have enjoyed each one. So today we're going to ask you to please reach out to an author that you heard on the Author Inside You podcast.
Send them an email and tell them that you enjoyed listening to the story that they told Matt and Leah Rafferty. And until next time,
right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast. with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.